Hi, my name is Tim, and this is my story. So I grew up in a Christian home to two parents that immigrated from Lebanon. I went to a Christian school growing up. My parents were super involved in the church. So I grew up with this foundation that showed the importance of Christianity in my life. My parents, on my mom's side, had a lot of influence in Lebanon. My grandfather was a famous clockmaker and inventor in Lebanon. So he did a lot of building clock towers and inventions in the Middle East and stuff like that. At 8 years old, I started learning how to fix clocks and watches, and I did that trained all the way until I was 18. I went to an elementary school and junior high that was a Christian school, a Christian private school. And so there it was like we had religion classes and all that stuff. So I grew up with that foundation and having Christianity in my academics as like a normal thing. So when I decided to go to a public high school, it was a big change. So I walked in expecting like things to be the same, and it was the complete opposite. I was pretty much at shock. I wasn't used to it, and for me, even coming from a family of immigrants where culture was different, just even as my generation was, just the outlook of my generation and culture was different. Yeah, I went from thinking being a Christian was normal and everything was going to be okay and easy to accommodate to high school to it felt like people saw me as this weird kid who didn't know how to be a teenager because he came from a family of immigrants. So it was really interesting. So I put on this kind of like this wall. By the time of the end of my freshman year, I thought I'm just not going to make any friends or do any of this type of socializing. I'm not going to get involved in anything. But I began to develop this yearning and desire for popularity and I don't know, to look good in front of people and just to change the outlook I had of myself and what other people thought of me. So I started signing up for every club and every sports team and all this stuff that I could think of. I joined dance team and choir and orchestra and robotics and a boat building team, Black Student Alliance, and everything I could get my hands on. And I even became the school DJ and went to every dance and became as friends with as many people as I could. I had my part in every friend group, and it was great. Like I thought I'd made it. I thought I'd reached the best point of popularity. But when I got my license, I was the guy who took everyone around and paid for their meal, and that's the guy I became to be known as, and it was really interesting going from, not knowing anyone to being this guy that I finally achieved, and like it was my mission, and it just consumed me. And so when I got to my senior year and reached this point, it was like awesome. Like I'm gonna have an awesome senior year. I'm gonna go to the best college and become an engineer and make all the money I can, and it's gonna be great. But one night I was in my basement in my workshop working on a project, and I drove my hand through my table saw, and everything came tumbling down completely. I basically was bedridden for 3 months. I had to go through a number of surgeries, which I lost all my immunity. So I got multiple flus and infections and ear infection, sinus infection, everything you could think of. I was just sick, which caused me to extend being home, which meant I was failing all my classes, and I was failing all my classes, and I couldn't attend any of the clubs and sports teams. I was put on academic probation, and basically I felt like I had lost everything that I had worked so hard for. I felt God was punishing me almost. I grew this bitterness and anger towards God, asking God, why did you do this to me? I was a good Christian. I served in kids and sound and tech and junior high and everything I could do as a good Christian, in addition to doing whatever I thought you wanted me to do, God, but you're punishing me, and why? Even got to a point where I was just asking God to make me not wake up the next morning, because I just felt this loneliness and bitterness and anger towards just my entire life. And I can't say I really had this wake-up call, this awakening in like 1 minute where I just looked up and I knew that I needed to turn my life around. It was just this almost a year long of where I just carried off this path and just did whatever I want and felt like I didn't need to put God in the center of my life. Even though I thought I was doing the right thing, I really wasn't. And I just slowly began to realize that there was this emptiness and lack of purpose in my life that could not be filled or fulfilled with people or money or popularity or success or whatever it may be. And so at the start of my college, at the start of my first year of college, I just realized that I needed to change something about my life. And that's when I realized that I needed to put Jesus first. So to put Jesus first, it really looked like, first it meant letting go of a few aspects of my life, whether it was friendships or the things I was getting involved in, or so all that, putting a lot of that away and just focusing time on Jesus. That meant being intentional about going to church, actually trying to listen to the message and spending time with Jesus on my own and thinking to myself, what am I doing wrong and how can I improve on that and how can I draw closer to God? Jesus has changed everything in so many ways for me. I think the biggest thing out of all this I need to realize was that I am not in control of my life. God is. I tried to put all this pressure on myself to be good at as many things as I could be and to put myself in the forefront of everyone's life. And that's not what God has called us to do, and I needed to realize that. The one thing I want you to know is that despite all the sin or the anger or bitterness or anxiety or depression or whatever you may be facing in your life, God is going to carry you and hold you tight despite everything.